Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister of Greece, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, arrives in New Delhi on two-day state visit. Prime Minister Modi and PM Mitsotakis to hold bilateral discussions. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate the 9th edition of Raisina Dialogue in capital New Delhi today. Prime Minister of Greece will deliver the keynote address. US vetoes UN resolution demanding immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Washington says Algerian proposed resolution would jeopardize talks to end the conflict. And on to details now. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the three-day Raisina Dialogue, India's flagship conference on geopolitics and geostrategy in capital New Delhi today. It is being organized by the Ministry of External Affairs in collaboration with the Observer Research Foundation. Prime Minister of Greece will deliver the keynote address. The theme of the conference this year is Chaturanga Conflict Contest, Cooperate, Create. Chaturanga is an ancient Indian board game. It predates chess and is considered the first strategy board game ever invented. Meghnadev reports for more.
Arrivals have started in New Delhi for India's premier conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics, the Raisina Dialogue 2024. The Raisina Dialogue is being held in New Delhi from 21st to 23rd February and will address challenging issues facing the global community. With the theme Chaturanga, Conflict, Contest, Cooperate, Create, the conference will delve into issues under diverse sub-thematic pillars like war and peace, tech regulations, invest, innovate, and more.
I'm here to speak about our calling for this century.
And this year, under India's leadership of the G20, we're putting sustainable development at the center of the agenda.
We have moved to a new mindset where solutions to climate challenge become the drivers of a new economic age.
India has emerged as a powerful leader and policy maker.
At the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of Greece, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, is also paying a state visit to India from 21st to 22nd February 2024 and will be the chief guest and keynote speaker at the 9th Raisina Dialogue. Every year, leaders in politics, business, media and civil society converge in New Delhi to discuss the state of the world and explore opportunities for cooperation on a wide range of contemporary matters.
When a few nations set the agenda and expected others to fall in line are over.
Hamas and the people who support Hamas are fully responsible for this appalling act of terror.
The health crisis during the pandemic, who could it solve? And more importantly, who would answer?
The dialogue is structured as a multi-stakeholder, cross-sectoral discussion involving heads of state, cabinet ministers and local government officials who are joined by thought leaders from private sector, media and academia. The conference is hosted by the Observer Research Foundation in partnership with the Indian Ministry of External Affairs. Meghnadev reports for DD India.
Well, Greece Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis arrived in the national capital on Tuesday night. He is accompanied by senior officials and a high-powered business delegation. PM Mitsotakis will be the chief guest and keynote speaker at the 9th Raisina Dialogue 2024 in New Delhi. The visiting Prime Minister will be accorded a ceremonial welcome at the forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and PM Mitsotakis will hold bilateral discussions, and Prime Minister Modi will also host a lunch banquet in honour of the visiting dignitary. Prime Minister Mitsotakis will also visit Mumbai before returning to Athens. Well, the United States wielded its veto power once more at the Security Council on Tuesday, blocking a ceasefire resolution, asserting that the proposed resolution from Algeria could jeopardize delicate negotiations in Cairo working towards a sustainable peace. This move has garnered criticism from Council members, while Algeria has reaffirmed its commitment to advocating for an immediate ceasefire. DD India's correspondent Jody Jacobs provides details from the United Nations.
13 members voted in favor, the United Kingdom abstained, and the US vetoed the resolution, which means the document failed to be adopted. Linda Thomas-Greenfield, the US ambassador to the United Nations, said that her country vetoed the resolution over concerns that it would jeopardize talks between the US, Egypt, Israel, and Qatar that seeks to broker a pause in the war and the release of hostages held by Hamas.
Proceeding with a vote today was wishful and irresponsible. And so while we cannot support a resolution that would put sensitive negotiations in jeopardy.
Several council members have criticized the United States' use of the veto, with China saying this sends the wrong message and pushes Gaza further into crisis at a time when Palestinians are struggling on the brink of death. Russia says Washington continues to provide Israel with a license to kill. Algeria, who drafted the resolution, has told the council members that it will not stop until the body shoulders its responsibility and imposes an immediate ceasefire. The Palestinian ambassador to the United Nations questioned when the Security Council would finally act to demand the ceasefire that the vast majority of the world wants to see, while Israel says calling for a ceasefire just further empowers Hamas. The United States has now proposed a separate resolution that calls for a temporary ceasefire.
There were a number of other issues with that resolution. Not recognize Israel's right to self-defense, which is a right that Israel has. And there were other issues with that particular resolution. So we think it should be reflected in a resolution, even a humanitarian resolution.
As well as opposing a major ground offensive by Israel in Rafah. Until now, Washington has been averse to use the word ceasefire in any of its UN action. A date for this vote is still to be determined. Meanwhile, the United Nations Secretary General has repeated his calls for a humanitarian ceasefire, with the body's aid agency UNRWA saying that the number of trucks entering Gaza remains well below its target of 500 per day, and it's battling to keep up with the humanitarian needs on the ground. Jody Jacobs at the United Nations in New York, reporting for DD India.
Well, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich has said that Israel would not pay any price for the return of hostages still held in Gaza amid ongoing negotiations to secure their release. Talking about the 134 hostages who remain in Gaza, Smotrich said that their return was very important, but that they could not be released at any cost. He said the way to free them was by ramping up the military pressure on Gaza and defeating Hamas, the armed group that governs the blockaded strip. The remarks came as the United States plans to send its Middle East envoy to the region for continued talks between the US, Egypt, Israel and Qatar that seek to broker a ceasefire and the release of hostages. While French warships in Red Sea intercepted and destroyed 2 drones in attacks from Yemen, a video footage showed explosions from the commanding deck of French Navy frigate. According to the officials, during the night of February 19th to 20th, the French multi-mission frigates detected and destroyed drone attacks originating from Yemen in the patrol zones in the Gulf of Aden and the southern Red Sea. Well, President Vladimir Putin said on Tuesday that Russia was against the deployment of nuclear weapons in space, and his defense minister flatly denied US claims that Russia was developing a nuclear capability for space. Putin did not rule out talks at defense and foreign ministry level with the United States on strategic stability. He added that Russia's activities in space did not differ from those of other countries, including the United States.
Our position is clear and transparent. We have always been categorically against and are now against the deployment of nuclear weapons in space.
Also, Russia's agriculture minister said that Moscow had completed its initiative of shipping 200,000 metric tons of free grain to 6 African countries. Putin had promised to deliver free grain to the 6 countries at a summit with African leaders in July. Soon after, Moscow withdrew from a deal that had allowed Ukraine to ship grain from its Black Sea ports, despite the war Russia has been waging. The deal, known as the Black Sea Grain Initiative, had helped lower prices on the global market, but Putin argued it was failing to get supplies to the countries in most urgent need. And Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro welcomed Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Tuesday, where the pair held a meeting. Lavrov is visiting Caracas as part of a Latin American tour that took him to Cuba on Monday and will culminate on February 22nd in Brazil. During the visit to Venezuela, Lavrov said he had strengthened alliances and commitments with the country, among them the deepening of cooperation on oil, gas and nuclear energy. Venezuela, as a close ally of Putin and President Maduro, has been vocal about his support for the Russian leader during the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Well, the lawyers of imprisoned WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange referenced a purported assassination plot as evidence his safety cannot be guaranteed if the UK extradites him to the United States. The first day of the 52-year-old hearing saw Assange's lawyers make their case to 2 High Court judges that Assange's situation is so severe he deserves another appeal in the UK courts. DD India's Stuart Smith has more from London.
Julian Assange's team on Tuesday were attempting to show why it would be a breach of UK law to extradite the WikiLeaks founder to the United States. They didn't need to prove that their claims were true, just that there are good enough grounds for a full and proper appeal in the UK courts. While the UK and US agree to extradite people wanted for certain crimes, there are exceptions. One avenue being pursued by Assange's lawyers is to demonstrate the prosecution is political in nature and therefore that he won't receive a fair trial in America. His lawyer in court attempted to persuade the judges there's precedent in the US for people being given harsher sentences than what the evidence alone would warrant. There's also an argument being made on health grounds that Assange is so physically and mentally unwell to extradite him would be illegal. His lawyers on Tuesday said he wasn't able to attend the hearing in person or even by video link because of his health. His team say he's at risk of attempting to kill himself if extradited and that he could face treatment tantamount to torture if he ends up in US prison, for example, solitary confinement. His lawyer also relayed to judges what he says is evidence of a CIA plot to assassinate Julian Assange under the Trump presidency, highlighting, the lawyer claims, the risk to Assange's life if he's deported. On Wednesday, the US Justice Department will have its chance to respond to the claims made by Assange's lawyer on Tuesday, and then a judgment is expected the same day. If an appeal is denied, his team hopes the European Court of Human Rights will issue an injunction preventing his deportation. But if that doesn't succeed, or if the injunction isn't quick enough, he could, after 5 years in British jail, be off to an American one. Stuart Smith in London, reporting for DD India.
Well, Donald Trump's election campaign has reported that it had raised $8.8 million in January, according to a financial disclosure submitted to the Federal Election Commission. Trump is closing in on the Republican nomination to face President Joe Biden, a Democrat, in the November presidential election, though he has been trailing Biden in fundraising. Trump reported having $30 million in the bank at the end of January, down from $33 million at the end of December, while Biden's campaign has yet to file its own financial disclosure for January. The campaign reported having nearly $46 million in the bank at the end of the last year. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. The Harlem Renaissance is the star of a new exhibition at New York City's Metropolitan Museum of Art. The exhibition showcases around 160 works of painting, sculpture, film and photography. Many of the works on display come from collections of historically black colleges and universities. The exhibit opens 25th of February and runs through July 28th. Austrian filmmakers present their competition film at the 74th Berlin Film Festival. The Devil's Bath, produced by Austrian auteur Ulrich Sedi, is one of 20 titles vying for the top Golden Bear Prize at this year's Berlinale. The winner will be announced in a gala ceremony on Saturday. American filmmaker Martin Scorsese wins the Berlin Film Festival's Lifetime Achievement Award weeks before his latest movie selected in Oscars with over 10 nominations. The Berlinale's honorary Golden Bear was intended partly to honor Scorsese's work preserving old films for posterity. Many eminent filmmakers attending the gala ceremony of Berlin Film Festival vowed working with Scorsese. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. PMLN and PPP gear up to form the next coalition government in Pakistan. Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz President Shehbaz Sharif to be the coalition's PM candidate. Jasprit Bumrah rested ahead of fourth IDFC First Bank test against England. KL Rahul ruled out owing to quadriceps injury.
Information shapes our reality. One app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Dipakshi Khurana. And moving on, India's Minister of State for External Affairs, V. Muralidharan, will represent India at G20 Foreign Ministers meeting today. The two-day meeting is being held in Rio de Janeiro. The meeting will also hold bilateral meetings with partner countries from the global south. During his visit, the minister will participate in two key sessions, including G20's role in dealing with ongoing international tensions and global governance reform. Furthermore, the MOS External Affairs will also attend the India-Brazil-South Africa Foreign Ministers meeting on the 22nd of February 2024. And Pakistan's two major parties have finally reached an agreement to form a coalition government. The Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz will be backed by the Pakistan People's Party in a new administration, they jointly announced. In a joint news conference late on Tuesday night, Pakistan People's Party Chairman Bilawal Bhutto Zardari announced that Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz President Shehbaz Sharif would be the coalition's candidate for Prime Minister and that the parties would push to form government as soon as possible. He added that his father, Asif Ali Zardari, will be the alliance's candidate for the country's president.
I can share with you that the Pakistan People's Party and the Muslim League Nawaz have enough numbers now, and God willing, now we'll be able to work on forming a government. Now Pakistan People's Party and Muslim League Nawaz are going to form a government. We are hoping that now, God willing, Shehbaz Sharif will once again become the Prime Minister of the country very soon. We and the entire nation are praying that this government should be successful and that we should be able to resolve our internal issues, our foreign issues, and the economic problems of every Pakistani with the help of Allah. God willing, our joint candidate for the presidency of Pakistan will be President Zardari.
Well, protesters in Pakistan have blocked a major border crossing with neighbouring Afghanistan to protest against Islamabad's refusal to allow document-free travel. Thousands of protesters have been staging demonstrations, sit-ins and road blockades near the Champan-Spin-Boldak border. Border police fired tear gas at hundreds of labourers who were protesting. The protests have stemmed from opposition to the newly implemented one-document requirement for travel by the Pakistani government, which has made it mandatory for all those who pass through to have a valid passport. And Democratic Republic of Congo's Prime Minister Guillaume Michel Sama Lukondo's resigned on Tuesday, triggering the dissolution of his government. Lukonde tendered his resignation to President Felix Tshisekedi 8 days after the validation of his mandate as a national deputy. He will now join Parliament as a member of the Assembly. The resignation has been accepted. However, the President has asked government to continue handling current affairs until a new government is formed. The resignation comes after France said earlier in the day it was very concerned about the situation in the eastern part of the DRC and called on Rwanda to cease its support for the M23 rebel groups. Well, African nations hope to build the continent's climate resilience by seeking more investment in the green economy. The Africa's Green Economy Summit this week in South Africa is expected to offer African countries transitioning to green energy pathways a platform to push the green economy agenda. Our Africa correspondent Julian Assange has more.
Africa's Green Economy Summit starts this Wednesday in Cape Town, South Africa. The gathering of policymakers, environmental experts and investors is aimed at driving the continent towards reducing environmental risks and achieving sustainable development without degrading the environment. More than 30 projects will be on display, with a focus on companies making a tangible impact on the green economy by prioritizing agriculture, transport, energy, and the water sectors. Africa continues to bear the brunt of energy inadequacies resulting from the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Floods and droughts have also had an impact. The summit follows last year's COP28 conference in which states made a historic $700 million pledge to the Loss and Damage Fund. More emphasis was put on the importance of green growth in the global south. Leon Senyange reporting for DD India.
Well, some weather-related updates from across the globe now. Milan residents grapples with bad air and wore face masks as some suffers with skin irritation and eye discomfort due to the dirty air. The European Council agreed to revise its air quality directives, which aim to reach zero pollution by 2050. Levels of fine particles and other pollutant agents in Milan's air has exceeded legal limits and ranks among the highest globally. A city of just over 1 million people, Milan lies almost one-third of Italy's population. The valley's 70 million inhabitants make it one of the most polluted areas in Europe. An atmospheric river pounded California with thunderstorms, packing gusty winds. The storm knocked out power for more than 11,000 residents, flooded roads, knocked down trees and shut down Santa Barbara Airport for the day. In the southern Californian beach city of Oceanside, the cleanup crews used bulldozers and other equipment to clean up mounds of stones, rocks and debris washed ashore by the storm. Heavy rains are expected to douse much of southern California till Wednesday. Also, intense rains wreaked havoc in Bolivia. At least 33 have died due to the bad weather. The authorities have issued a red alert in capital town of Bolivia with risk of overflow. In Oruro, West Bolivia, families had to be rescued with boats after the Paria River swelled and overflowed on Sunday, leaving thousands of families affected. Since last week, incessant rains have kept La Paz authorities on watch as the region witnessed landslides in different areas. And in an historic and momentous event, the revered relics of Lord Buddha, currently preserved at the Indian National Museum in New Delhi, are set to embark on a sacred journey to Thailand. This unprecedented exposition marks the first time that the holy relics of Lord Buddha, along with his disciples, Arahata Sariputra and Arahata Maudgalyana, will be showcased together at an overseas location. The relics will be displayed in 4 cities of Thailand, including Bangkok and Krabi, where people will pay their obeisance to the sacred remnants, and after it, relics will be flown back to India on 19th of March. A 22-member delegation led by Bihar Governor Rajendra Vishwanath Arlekar will accompany the sacred relics from India to Thailand for a 26-day exposition. This will further boost cultural and spiritual relations between the two countries. And in sports update, the BCCI on Tuesday confirmed Jasprit Bumrah's release from the Indian squad, including KL Rahul being ruled out for the fourth test versus England. Vice captain Jasprit Bumrah has been released from the squad for the IDFC First Bank test against England in Ranchi. Meanwhile, KL Rahul is ruled out of the fourth test. His participation in the final test match in Dharamshala is subject to fitness. Pacer Mukesh Kumar, who was released from the squad for the third test in Rajkot, has joined the team in Ranchi and is unlikely to replace Bumrah, the highest wicket taker of the series with 17 scalps in the playing 11. The fourth test match between India and England will kickstart from Friday onwards. And the fourth edition of Khelo India University Games is currently underway in the Indian state of Assam. The major events scheduled for today includes basketball, football, table tennis, archery and shooting, along with the men's and women's final in Kabaddi. At the Khelo India University Games 2024, medals will be offered in 20 sports with around 4,500 athletes from over 200 Indian universities competing for the medals. The 11-day-long Khelo India University Games will conclude on the 29th of February. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Well, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Nipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.